All right, so as promised, we've talked about the story throughout the morning this morning, but we want to get all sides of this story, and the person who's front and center for all of this, the president of the Vermilion Parish School Board, joining us on the phone now.
Mr. Anthony Fontana. Sir, thank you for taking some time with us today.
Good.
We want to talk with you about the entire situation, get your perspective. Tell us about Monday night and why you felt that that it was time to halt Daisha Hargrave's questions and discussions.
You really got to start with the whole meeting, with the agenda. The agenda item was strictly to vote up or down on a contract for the superintendent. It wasn't to discuss the issues of the contract. It wasn't to discuss questions and answers. It was strictly up or down. So our local board rules that allow for public discussion provides that each person would get up to 3 minutes to be able to speak, but it had to be germane to the subject of the agenda. So when I recognized her, she started speaking, and she made it very clear that she was against giving him not a contract, but against giving him a raise because the teachers hadn't gotten a raise. And basically that was the whole message. Then she got off of the message and started talking about other things and talking about the issues of the contract itself. And so I stopped her and said that she was not germane to the subject matter and she needs to stay on the subject matter. And she continued to talk. I let it go more than 3 minutes. And then after that, it was time to have somebody else. Eventually, she sat down. I asked for any other comments from the audience. I got none. So I turned to the board to ask for board commentary on the motion that was on the floor. I got one board member that raised her hand, Ms. Duplichan, so I called on her. She started speaking in response, and then the teacher got up again and started speaking over her. It's completely out of order. And that's when the security agent walked over to her, and I assumed that he told her that she needed to sit down and be quiet. And then after that is when everything started happening, that he felt it was necessary to escort her out of the building. She wasn't under arrest.
Mr. Fontana, I do want to ask, I know, I understand the rules. You said that on Monday night it was just an up or down vote. Was there a time at a previous board meeting that maybe didn't get covered by media where these concerns were heard?
No, because we never had a contract. I mean, we've been trying to get the board for the last year and a half.
Do you think there should be that time for teachers or staffers in the district to debate this?
If they wanted to debate it, yeah, they can call a meeting. They could have asked us to have an open forum on the issues. Nobody did that. Nobody put themselves on the agenda.
There's nothing that you plan, though, as the board.
What's that?
There's nothing that you plan proactively as a board. This is the first time you guys were going to vote on this. And that is presumably why so many people were there to have their opinions heard.
Well, you're wrong about that. There wasn't so many people there. I was expecting that it was going to be packed from all the rumors that we heard about the teachers being upset about him getting a raise and things like this. I was really prepared that we'd have standing room only. There was a handful of teachers.
Now,
and she got up and said that she was speaking for all the teachers in Vermilion Parish, and some of the teachers over there said, "You're not speaking for me."
Well,
so where was everybody else?
She did not say she was speaking for all of the teachers. She did say she was speaking for some of the teachers. Now, but as we look at this picture as a whole, how do you feel about it now? People feel as if, or people have expressed two big sides, right? They're either follow within the time limit and the rules, and other people say this woman was shut down. And why couldn't she just give her opinion? Should the board president not have been more lenient with her? Do you feel as if you should have been more lenient?
Let me ask you this. She's a school teacher. If a child gets up in her classroom and starts talking in the middle of the class, and she tells the child to sit down, and the child doesn't sit down, what does she do? She removes the child from the classroom and sends it to the principal's office. We have rules. We have rules to follow. We have to get our agenda done. We have to have orderly meetings. And if she can't do that, then she needs to be removed.
And I agree with you. I do agree with you. But, sir, this is a case where there are two adults in this room. You're an adult and she's an adult. The comparison you're making is between an adult and a child. It's a different circumstance. And
no, it's not a different circumstance. It's the same circumstance, the same rules that you apply by. You apply by the rules in the classroom. She's a teacher. She expects to have order in a classroom. If she comes to a board meeting, she has to expect that we're going to have order at a board meeting.
And true. But
all she had to do was sit down.
But don't you agree, though, that passions were high on your side as well, though? Because her passions were obviously high. Do you think she got out of control?
I think she came with an agenda, and she was going to say whatever she had to say, and nobody was going to stop her.
And that was one of the things that was discussed. Do you think it was a staged situation?
I don't think it was so much as a stage that it was all planned out. I think she came with an agenda. I think that people had contacted her on Facebook, or she saw stuff on Facebook, and she got all worked up, and she came there, and this is what she was going to say. This is the first time that this issue came up about the salary. What the four board members have been fighting for the last year and a half was to prevent the superintendent from getting a contract. All of a sudden now it changed. That day it changed. We had no idea that anybody was going to be opposed to his raise. We thought they were going to be opposed to the contract. Well, all of a sudden it changes.
Do you understand why, if there was never public debate, you may not know there was
sentiment
anything
against what
it?
You guys were thinking?
This is the way all of our board meetings are held. And this is the way I think every board meeting is held. We post an agenda. With the agenda, VA got the copies of the contract. The media gets the copies of the contract. The media gets the whole agenda stuff. Anybody could have asked for anything. Anybody could have asked to be put on the agenda.
We talked in the last segment.
This is the same procedure we use at every meeting in the almost 25 years that I've been on the school board.
We talked to the president of the Louisiana Association of Educators in the last segment, and one of the things we asked about was just generally in school board situations, there are tense topics. There are passion. Where does your responsibility lie as the president of the school board to make sure that things happen orderly and you don't have another teacher arrested next week or next month?
You follow the rules. I follow the rules.
Okay.
We have said that over and over again. We're going to be civil. We're going to have a civil meeting. We're going to follow the rules. I let her go beyond the rules. She spoke more than 3 minutes. I could have shut her off before that.
Does she get 3 minutes combined for the time of the meeting, or 3 minutes each time she's recognized? Because the superintendent was in a discourse with her. He was having a discussion with her and answering her question. Does she get 3 minutes each time?
She gets to speak one time. Everybody gets to speak one time.
Okay. And for the 3 minute duration is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, based on the rules. And this
Correct.
And this point going forward, knowing now that the situation is maybe not as some board members thought it might be, I know it's been a very contentious situation on the board for months behind the scenes. What goes on now? What goes on in your mind as board president as to what you think should be on the agenda in the coming months? Do you have to address how teachers are feeling from this point on? Is that your duty and your job, do you feel?
Well, there's two different things that you're talking about. You're talking about agendas.
We meant the actual agenda for the meeting.
What I'm asking you is,
Correct.
are you going to put an issue on the ballot or put an issue on the agenda where this issue is addressed, or do you just let it fall by the wayside? Because if we ignore the situation, do you feel it's just going to get worse?
I don't put anything on the agenda unless there's a request from a board member or from some group or otherwise.
But you're a board member. You are a board member. You're the president of the board, so I'm asking you, will you put an item on the agenda for the Vermilion Parish School Board to discuss this situation and going forward? I mean, do you do that after this situation, or do you not?
I don't know what's going to follow about this. It depends on the other board members. It depends on whether or not they want to address this issue. I'm not putting anything on the board that board members don't want to discuss. Somebody doesn't request that it be put on the board.
We're getting a lot of feedback as this interview is happening, and one of the questions that came in was clarification, because now we're looking at the future of this marshal. We hear he's in okay standing with the school board and in his actual job. But when you look at what actually happened, and these videos, I mean, we talked about it being posted one place. Since midnight, it was watched 26,000 times all over the world. Was the marshal
threats from all over the world?
Was the marshal told, or has any conversation ever been had, that if someone doesn't leave, that they're arrested?
There was no intent for him to arrest anybody. He was ushering the woman out of the board meeting. That's what he was there for. It's no different from our courtrooms. I'm in court every day. We've got bailiffs in our courtrooms. The judges don't order the bailiffs to do anything. Their job is to keep order. And as soon as somebody gets up and starts yelling or starts talking out of order, they go to them, tell them to sit down. If they don't sit down, they usher them out. Now, what happens after that is between the officer and that person.
Would you feel differently if Daisha Hargrave were your daughter?
No. No, if my daughter came to a meeting and did the same thing that she did, she would be asked to leave if she doesn't sit down and play by the rules. The guy asked her to sit down and to be quiet. She didn't do that.
As we wrap up here, we've got about 30 seconds or so. Do you, though, worry, as the school board president, that it does put a damper on people feeling that they can express themselves at future meetings? Do you worry about that?
No. Anybody can express himself. They get their 3 minutes, and most of the time we let them go, just like I let her go more than 3 minutes. If it's going to take her a little bit longer to get a point across, but she got a point across within the first 3 minutes. She was against the raise because the teachers were not getting a raise at the same time. All of our superintendents in the area, and probably most in the state, get evaluated once a year, and most of them, Aguilar just got approved and didn't get a raise in Lafayette, and the teachers did not.
Yes, that is correct. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
All right. That's what this is all about. It's a process.
Vermilion Parish School Board President, Mr. Anthony Fontana, thank you for taking some time this morning. Certainly do appreciate you being candid with us today.
Well, thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too, sir. Thank you. All right, so every perspective that is conceivably possible, with the exception of Daisha Hargrave, because it's not something she's doing with reporters at this particular point.
Well, I'll be honest. I think everything, this entire situation, can be explained with one statement that he made that stands out, and he made it really early on.
Okay.
The teacher and the student mentality. I would think a lot of teachers that go to a school board meeting are there with a colleague.
I don't say that. It's not comparable. You cannot
it's a totally
say,
different thing.
And if
it feeds into the narrative that they feel they're not being treated as professionals. The question I have is, why did the officer go too far in the hallway, and what was in the gap between when they left the meeting room and got into the hallway? And here he is, he's a young, strong man. You mean to tell me he could not control the situation? She was leaving, obviously. She was leaving the room. He was escorting her out. Was physical force necessary? That's my only question.
And it's a great question. And the question also, out of that statement that he made, why does a school board person think that it's comparable to speaking to a child? It's as if he is referencing that he is the adult and she is the child.
Stafford, wrap this one up. We're going to take a break and then take some of your calls when we come back.
So sending a kid to the principal's office is very different than sending the 2016 Teacher of the Year to jail. That guy is a bully. You can hear it in his voice. And let me tell you something. Leaders eat last, okay? 10 years with no raises, leaders eat last.
All right, 7:35. We're back with more Wingnet Wednesday next on Acadiana's Morning News.